Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Strong and Simple podcast. It's Michelle and I'm here with Marissa and our very, very special guest today, Casey Westbrook. I've known Casey we did a business group together with Christina Montalvo. So I'm so excited to have her here because our mission and philosophies align in a lot of ways, which is really exciting. She's a strength and conditioning coach for women who love the outdoors, adventure, and recreational sports. As an avid mountain biker, she's passionate about helping other outdoorsy gals get strong so they can enjoy their sport more and reach their next level. Yay. I love watching you on Instagram and all the fun stuff that you're doing outdoors, especially on mountain bikes, because that's not something that I do. So I love to watch you and your pals doing all the things. Thanks for being here today to chat with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I love to turn the mic over to you pretty much right away to kind of talk about, how did you find mountain biking? How did you start doing what you're doing?
Yeah. So how did I start doing what I'm doing? So I started in strength and conditioning. I went to school for exercise science. I did undergrad, master's. I thought I was going to be a physical therapist. And then I saw that world and I was like, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't align with where I see myself in the next 10 years. And so I went and worked at the YMCA, got into the strength and conditioning world. And that's how I got into more of the movement space, strength and conditioning, and got excited about that world. But during that whole time, I was a runner. I started running when I was 10 years old. So I ran from 10 years old to 24. So 14 years, hardcore identity as a runner and got into ultra marathons during that time.
Oh my gosh.
So during the last few years of my running, hardcore identity, I was a runner and I ran ultra marathons, which was a special time. And eventually I got injured, which is the classic running story. Run and then you get injured. It's a huge part of the running world. And I had this huge identity crisis of who am I? What do I do with my time? I spend 10 hours a week running. What am I doing now? So I had a few rough years of identity and moved to Bend and I found mountain biking, which gave me the same feeling of getting out there, getting in the outdoors, feeling far away and using my body to get there. And so that's how I got into mountain biking. And then I guess it's 5 years now, 5 years. And I'm deep in it. I love it. It's my favorite sport and I love bringing people into it. It's my favorite way to connect with people and experience the world right now. Yeah.
Amazing. What exactly makes, besides it being mountain and bike, besides it being a compound word, right? What actually, because I am not somebody who's going to go down a mountain on a set of wheels, but what kind of skills do you need to be able to do that? How did you get started doing that? Did you just go to the top of a hill and ride your bike down?
Yeah, no, I started
not Washington.
That's simple.
Just start at the top.
Yeah.
Quick 3,000 feet.
Just take the brakes out. Just go flying down.
Yep, straight out in front.
Yeah, that's one way. I don't recommend that. Rented a bike from my local shop. You gotta ride a bike first. Once you can do that, you just mountain biking is on dirt. So if you can get on a trail, that is the first step.
Okay.
So we started on a really easy flat trail. A lot of things that you see I post on social media are really exciting things, but mostly we start on something really simple and flat and something that is very similar to a road, just on dirt, a little bit softer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you start with the unsexy and work your way to the sexy, almost everything else.
With everything, yeah.
Pretty much,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, great.
I think, when I coach mountain biking now, which is amazing, but there's a lot of fear, especially for women in starting mountain biking, because one, we aren't exposed to doing adventurous or intense things as young women. So what we see on social media and like what's really glorified in mountain biking is like this big scary stuff, like hitting jumps or like drops or like technical like scary rocks. And those things are fun when you're ready for them, but like truly mountain biking can be just so simple and easy and straightforward and just like a really beautiful way to connect with nature. And you literally never have to do anything scary unless you want to.
All right. Well, this is a good reframe, coach. Tell me more.
Yes. Yeah, I think like one of my biggest things in coaching women in mountain biking is like, yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure to like do the cool shit. Like that's what's cool in mountain biking. And my biggest thing is like, this is available to you anytime. Like you'll work on the skills and drills for this, but you literally never have to do any of this. Like you can have fun mountain biking in the way that feels good for you. Okay. And if that's just like getting out on the weekends for a ride with your girlfriends and that's like something really chill, that's amazing. And like, I'm here for you if you want something different.
I love
That's
that.
so cool. Yeah. No, I'm on TikTok way more than is healthy. I admit it. That's the first step. But I've seen so many like the GoPro mountain biking videos where they're literally like on a plank, like just going so fast, and literally the anxiety that I feel just watching these, like I want to vomit watching these. And I think, I'm sure other people see that and they're like, if that's what mountain biking is, I don't want anything to do with it. So I think it's good that we're showing like another side of mountain biking where it's like, no, you can have a wide path, not a 2x4, you know? So,
you don't have to be 20 feet in the air to have a good time.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I would love to, you know, I'm sure that a lot of our listeners resonate with the having your sport ended by injury story. And it can be so, I mean, obviously it's heartbreaking, right? If that's your passion and your first love, and then trying to transition to something new. I mean, it can be really scary. There's a lot of apprehension that can come along with that. And also like, well, how do I even find like what I should try next? Can you speak a little bit to kind of like what your experience was kind of like working through those feelings about like trying something new and transitioning to something different?
Yeah. So, like around when I was running, like that's all I did. Like strength training, like was kind of in there, but it was like, definitely like, retrospectively, that would have been a good thing to spend more time on. But classic, like I just want to be out there doing my sport. And I had like, during the end of that time, I started dabbling in like things like climbing, which is like so edgy and like, that was really scary. So yeah, what I think I just was like, I love nature. Like I've always been an outdoorsy person. Like I grew up in Santa Cruz, California, which is like beautiful place. Like we're at the beach, we're in the mountains, like it's all right there. So I was very comfortable being outside, which I'm really grateful for. And I think I was at a point where I was like, I'm just going to try stuff. Like we had recently moved to Bend, Oregon. So there's a lot of like new happening. And my husband was like, he had tried it like one time before me and he's like, let's just try it. Like, I think you're going to love it. And so I was just like, all right, I'll try it. It's like, we'll see what happens. I don't know that I had really like a lot of thought about it. I think I just went for it.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know much about the sport at all. So like, I think I hadn't been on social media much. So I didn't really know much.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing was like overcoming the like singular identity for me. That was like the biggest thing that came out at that time.
Yeah.
That identity of being a runner, being a swimmer, even, you know, we've talked to other folks on the podcast about, you know, having an identity as a power lifter or strength train, like, you know, crossfitter. That's it.
Here we go.
Oh, here we go.
I don't think you can ever unmarry the identity of a CrossFitter.
No, I don't think you can. But, you know, we had somebody on who, you know, once they were pregnant and then had a baby and like losing that or feeling like they lost that part of their identity because fitness and that being like fitness as a hobby or as more than a hobby, more than recreational, even becoming like, that's what you do. Like and then if that something happens, whether you have a baby or you have an injury or, you move away from a safe place to do those things, it's like, well, what do I do now? Who am I? And I think it could even be said, for somebody who has been in school for a while, like you go get your bachelor's, get your master's, get your doctorate or whatever. And then it's like, okay, now what? I've been a student. Like, what do I do now? What am I doing? So that transition of knowing that it's like, okay to mourn and like grieve that while also trying to find something else that won't necessarily replace that, but can fulfill you and bring you the joy that activity brought you, I guess is what I'm going to say.
Absolutely. Like there was a huge grieving process. Like I went through a pretty like depressed period and it was really hard. And I think like as hard as that time was and as sad as it was to lose like that type of running, like I think like I used to run like 30 miles on the weekend. Like now, like I have zero drive or desire to do that, but that was really like a special time to be able to like take my body those places. But I'm also so grateful for that because now I like have learned how that I can like try new things and like I can be like a more well-rounded person. Like I'm not just a runner. Like I'm a whole human and I can show all those parts of myself. And I don't think that like that process would have taken a lot longer if like running was still there because that took all of my identity and like was kind of this mask of like who I was in the world. And then it also allowed me to like, get out there and try new things and like learn to be a beginner at something and stuck for a while.
Yeah.
I think that's important. That's an important piece. Go ahead, Marissa. I think I just cut you off.
Oh, no. Like I was just yesing.
Okay.
Yes, it is. You have to be willing to suck for a little while if you're ever going to try anything new, right? It's the thing you have to like make peace with.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's especially part of the process. We get to be part of.
Definitely. Yeah.
And it's a part of the process that is not glorified enough for how important it is. Kind of like how Marissa was just talking about, on TikTok, you watch all these people doing mountain biking and it's, flying down the mountain, doing all these jumps, going over planks of wood, over water and whatever.
With like bears.
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 Are you sure this isn't a video game? But the same thing with like strength training. You see people pulling 400-pound deadlifts. Like you're seeing everybody's, personal records when they're hitting these like real heavy weights and weights that some people never even thought about that even being a goal for themselves. And then they see that and they're like, oh, maybe I'm not doing this good enough. Maybe I'm not, moving fast enough or I'm not getting strong enough, fast enough sort of thing. And how do you work with your athletes on if any of them ever have kind of that frustration point of when you're out with a group and maybe they're at a different level than some of the other people, and maybe they're getting frustrated that they're not gaining skill as quickly as they think they should?
Yeah, I think first, like, I encourage people to like be frustrated. Like it's frustrating sometimes out there. Like I'm really trying to be out, like trying to clear this feature, like do this new thing, and I'm like not getting it, and it's frustrating. And trying to like just hide that down isn't going to help us. So like, yeah, it's frustrating. This sport can be frustrating sometimes, and that's part of the process. And then I try to remind people, like, you don't know what this person's background is. Like, is this your first time riding with them? Like, have you been riding with them for a long time? So those are some things I remind them of. And like, we just don't know what people have been through or what their level of experience is. And like, truly, most of these things is time on the bike. And then for some people, this is their first like skill sport ever, So like, it was my first skill sport, like running, not really a skill. Like you can just kind of do it. Biking, like we do need to have some like skills. We need to have like some hand-eye coordination and like coordination overall, which is like, didn't have that. So it's going to take some time to develop those skills and just be with the process. Yeah.
What are some of the ways that you help build those skills? Do you have certain like strength programs or certain like agility? Like how do you help people build those skills?
Yeah, so I help people in two ways. One, I do strength and conditioning. So that's, do we have the physical strength that it requires for you to move this bike around? Yes, while we're like pedaling, there's a lot of like, we need to like maneuver the bike with our whole body. Like we're changing the way we're orienting our body to the bike to like maneuver around different things. So do we have like upper and lower body strength, core stability, and coordination and all of that? So there's some things we can do in the gym. Do we have like the ability to move quickly? As an endurance athlete, like speed and like power was not a thing. I could do something for a long time, but you asked me to do something for a short time really fast. Didn't really help the adaptations for that. So we work on that because most of us, we have a really strong endurance background. But then we look at things like on the trail, just like with things like soccer or any other sports, like you see people doing drills. So like in soccer, you're like maneuvering the ball around cones or passing the ball in certain ways. With mountain biking, we're practicing like, can you balance on the bike? Are you in this, like, are you using the body position? That's really helpful here. Are you like, how do we practice like going over rocks? Like, what do you need to do with your bike and your body? So similar to like, other sports like soccer or baseball, we have drills and skills that we work on that are going to apply to what you want to do on the trail.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Can I'm going to take us to a place.
Take us there.
I'm taking us there. So, both of your sports that you've been involved in, right? Running and then being in a bike in the woods, right? These are places where individuals with uteruses are often told it's dangerous to be, right? Whether it's if you're running, don't run at night, have a running buddy, keep something sharp in your hand, be aware of your surroundings, don't put headphones in, all this stuff. And, being in the woods, it's like, you should have like a weapon on you and, same thing. You need to be alert, ideally have somebody with you. So I would love to take the conversation to a dark place. Like just talking about being a woman in these environments that we've been told are inherently unsafe for us. And we have to take all of these special precautions when we're doing these things.
Yeah, that was definitely like the narrative when I was running. Like the men in my family were like, that's not safe. Like, why are you doing this alone? That like level of unsafety, I didn't feel that as much like out in nature. Just because there's really no one out there.
No one to hear you scream.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You've been listening to too much true crime pod.
I do listen to a lot of true crime.
It's true. Like that's like there have been so many stories of women recently being like killed on their run or whatever in their local community. And I think it's something like women do worry about. And it's something like I always like know, like if I start feeling like my spidey senses, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do in this situation? Like we're good at making plans, which I don't think most men realize that we do that. But like, I was thinking about this the other day and I'm like, I do have like a plan sometimes. I'm like, my spidey senses are going off for whatever reason, like whether it's out in nature or if it's just like walking around town. And I'm like, I'm getting a weird vibe. I don't know what it is. And so I'm like, all right, what would I do in this situation? Like, what can I do? Like, what can my body do? What do I have available to me? So it is something that we worry about. And I think in the Bend community, I feel really safe. But like, then again, like women go missing here too. And it is
Yeah.
scary. Like we had a woman a couple months ago, like go missing. Like, where is she? She's just like at a local like park.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't know where she was, but it's just a reminder that like, yeah, like things like sex trafficking and things like that are here in this like really beautiful place and community and like this amazing outdoor space. And it can be like it can be dangerous. And I think we have a like I don't know, I have a plan, I guess, and
Yeah.
I hope for the best. Like I just want to be I'm mostly out there just enjoying my sport, but like if something comes up or like I'm starting to feel a certain type of way, I'm like, all right, I gotta make a plan to like make sure I get back to my car.
Yeah. That's such a good point. Like definitely trusting your gut. And I do think people don't realize like, I mean, I know from my own experience too, like constantly thinking like, if this happens, this is what I'll do. Like, even if you're enjoying where you are, that thought's like always in the back of your head. I know for me, like, I don't hike alone very often. One, because my friends jokingly call me Magellan. I have like no sense of direction whatsoever. So there's like that situation. But if it's a place I'm really familiar with, like my dog's going to be with me, or I'll have somebody else with me. Because I'm not a fast runner. I need another plan. But yeah, I think it's like, always being alert and, just, it sucks that that's the reality, but
yeah. And I like, I don't find myself out in nature alone a lot. Like I have 2 dogs and like most people are deterred by dogs.
Yeah.
Where I'm out with like my husband or a group of friends and we're usually like together.
Yeah.
Group.
Which is fortunate that I have that community around me. Yeah.
Yeah. Nature's more fun with friends anyway.
It is.
It is. It is. Well, now that I've brought the conversation way down to basement level, let's bring the mood back up again, shall we?
Well, I was going to transition to the other scary side of women's sports is diet culture and
let's keep killing this.
Yeah. Like let's dig into this. The pressure for if you're doing an activity as a woman, it must be for some sort of weight loss or for some sort of body change or that nervousness so as a runner, you were saying that like you never really strength trained before. And then when I was running and also got injured, I was also not doing any sort of strength training. And it was because strength training didn't burn as much calories as running did. Right. So how do you help your athletes and even yourself kind of navigate some of those pressures that I'm sure exist in the mountain biking, world and community, and especially for folks who are just getting started with mountain biking, who think that it will be a good way to augment, body recomp or whatever.
Yeah. It just breaks my heart when people are like, oh, like this is for like a workout. And like, yes, like this is a physical activity. Like things are going to be happening in our body, but like you're missing like the magic of being outside. So this comes up a lot more in my like strength training because that's just like a really special, like we have really good conversations there about like, why are we doing our sports, so it's really having conversations. What was the question? It was like, how do we move from like this being like a diet thing to like, how do we in our sports? Yeah, these conversations come up. So for a lot of people, I'm like their first introduction to like movement is maybe not just a way to burn calories. So it's a lot of like reframing, like, why are you here? Why is this important to you? Like, we're not going to necessarily do mountain biking just to like lose weight. Like, it's not necessarily like that fun. I think just as like a calorie burning tool. So I think we just have those conversations and like start bringing like new ideas to this space. Cause most people are like, they haven't heard of like not dieting or not trying to lose weight all the time. I think the biggest conversation we have is like, what does an outdoor athlete look like? Like, this is the thing that comes up most is like, the reason I'm not progressing is because my body is like a certain way, or like way more than I did, or like I don't look like the average outdoor athlete. That's the thing that comes up mostly because we live in Bend and there's a ton of, we have like a fairly high amount of like high level athletes here. Like this is a hot spot for like endurance athletes. Like we have a lot of like professional mountain bikers and skiers and like runners here in Bend. So we have that like culture around like professional athletes in our community. And I think a lot of people look to them and like, what do we see? Like we see like sort of one body type.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think people think like, oh, it's my body type that's holding me back. And I question that. I'm like, is that really what's holding you back? Like, are you training? Like, are you training for the sport? Have you been training? Like, are you working with a coach to help you get to a higher level? Or are you just kind of like randomly running, which is fine. Like if you're just like, I randomly am like doing my sport and training, like that's totally fine. That's how I do my sports. But like, if you're like, I want to be competitive, like potentially working with a coach on those things is going to help you more. And I think when I look at like historically, like who is in sports, it's like thin and like white women. But I'm just curious, like, is it because that's just like what we've seen and like other people don't feel invited? Like, what would it be like if we just allowed all, like, kind of saw more body types in the sport? Like, would women in larger bodies like be at a more competitive level? And I think that's just what we're shown. I don't know if that made any sense.
No, it does. Because I think, you know, if we think about if more, so it's like this vicious cycle, right? Yeah. When you see yourself reflected in a sport or in any activity, you are more likely to be drawn to the potential of you being able to participate in that activity. So if only a certain body shape, body size, race, gender is portrayed in any sport or activity, then if you don't fit into that category or any of those categories, you're going to feel like, well, that's clearly not for me. And if it's body shape or body size, until I have that shape, until I am that weight. But then so then other folks are not then jumping in, which leads to less variety being portrayed, right? So it really is important for more folks who are in these activities who don't technically fit that, you know, classic quote unquote mold of what a mountain biker looks like, what a runner looks like, to show that a runner, a mountain biker, a power lifter can look like any of these, any of us, any of you, right? So that other people then see the variety and potentially see themselves, which then helps, you know, raise more people coming in.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think like coaches too, and I think especially in running, I think coaches like naturally are going to select like call in, hey, like you have the runner's body type, like you should be in. Like I've been told I have a basketball body type or like a 400-meter runner body type. And I'm like, I am slow and I have like no hand-eye coordination. Like that is just not accurate. And it's just so, I think it's just like very pervasive in the sport. Yeah. All sports really.
Yeah.
And just the fact that like,
oh, go ahead. No.
Yeah. With things like mountain biking, there's like, we have like the endurance piece, but then we have things like downhill mountain biking, which like, yes, requires some like physical, like strength and stamina. Like why are like body types like all the same across like all of these aspects of this sport, you know? Yeah. Which like, I think of downhill as like almost like the power lifting of like, or Olympic lifting of like mountain biking, right? Like, like any body type can really be in any of these sports. And like, I'm just so curious, like what would be possible if we didn't automatically like say you're not going to be good in this sport because your body looks a certain way. Yeah. I'm just so curious. It's kind of like when you look at maturation, like in school, like so many kids are turned away because their maturation age, like they don't physically mature until later, and they just like get turned away from sport because they're not competitive. And it's like their maturation and speed is different. And I'm just so curious, like, if these things weren't, if there's a way to like bring everyone in and let everyone feel competitive and competent, like what would it look like out there in sports?
Probably a little bit more inclusive, right? Yeah. And I mean, that idea of body image too. So we have this layer of who is being portrayed as being the best body type for a sport, compounded by body image and even body dysmorphia and what we think our bodies look like in comparison to other bodies. And I'm sure you come across this idea of, sure, you're telling me strength training for mountain biking is important so I don't get injured, so I can be stronger, so I can meet some of these goals, but I want to get bulky. I don't want to look like I'm lifting weights. How do you hear that at all? And then how do you help people kind of move past that to bridge into actually giving it a go?
Yeah, I definitely hear that. I think that's still like a very pervasive belief in, which is just like, I know I'm in this bubble of like strength and conditioning and like health at every size and like this world. So I'm like reminded that like, yes, the world is still like coming to terms with this. But it's a lot of like having this conversation of what the science is. First of all, like you're probably not going to get bulky considering the fact that like you're mostly spending your time doing your sport and you're not spending 7 days a week in the gym. Scientifically, like it's probably not going to happen. So first having that conversation and then having the conversation around like strength training, there's like a ton of evidence how that it improves our economy. So like you're going to be more efficient out there. Which means you're going to have more fun. You're going to have more fun with your friends on the trail. So it's one, having that conversation. I think that's the main thing that brings people into like, okay, like this might be possible.
Yeah. What about around nutrition? I know that you mostly focus on like the strength and conditioning side of things, but I'm sure like with any sport, first of all, if you are spending an afternoon or a morning or a full day out on a trail, you have to be fueled for that, right? Like you can't necessarily be eating the lowest calorie breakfast and then just thinking you're going to go all day and be able to have the stamina, right? So how do you support your athletes with nutrition so that they are feeling well fueled for their events, not events, but a day outside?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not a nutritionist. So if people need like really specific information, I'm going to send them off to somebody. But mostly, first of all, like eat food is the number one recommendation. So there's like diet culture. The way it shows up in sport is like eat as little as possible so you can be small. And in particular with endurance sports, like smaller is better is kind of the narrative. But for most of us, that leads to feeling hungry and bonking, which is a sad day. I've done it many times. It's not fun. A lot of tears on the trail. It's not fun. Yeah. And like most women have experienced that because we're learning how to fuel ourselves properly after being in diet culture. So first, like eat food. When you're out on the trail, you want to eat something like every hour. So if you're out there for 3 hours, like you need to bring like probably 3 snacks, and they need to have carbohydrates at least. Like something in addition to that is probably helpful, but like what you're using out there on the trail is carbohydrates, so you need to be fueling with that because that's what we're using. So we got to make sure we have that readily available. And then eating after. Yeah, so mostly eating is like the number one recommendation.
Yeah, and that's hard. Like you said, you know, many women have been conditioned most of our lives to eat as little as possible. So even when you said if you're going to be out on the trail for 3 hours, you're going to want to probably bring 3 snacks with you.
Mm-hmm.
That idea is probably really scary for a lot of women.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Like I'm out there, I'm like trail mom, like I bring all the snacks. And like so often, like women behind me are bonking and I'm like, we're going to be out here for a few hours. Like we need to replenish our stores.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so often you hear women say, like, oh, I don't need a snack. And if it's their first time being out there for like a few hours, like we learn that lesson pretty fast. Especially if we really want to be out there having fun. Like we're like, oh, this is what my body's doing. Like I'm really using energy here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to make it off the trail smiling.
Right. It's not fun to be bonking and like really hungry when you have a like technical feature coming up.
Yeah.
It's
Can you explain to our listeners what you mean by bonking, like what that term is?
Bonking is it's like when it's on that like scale. I think of it as like there's this transition period from carbohydrate to like fat is a lot of times where it's happening. So like we're running out of carbohydrate stores because we haven't fueled ourselves, or in some sports like we physically like cannot replenish. So this is going to happen if we're in really long endurance sports. And we're starting to transition to like fat as our primary fuel source. But that time period is like we're losing access to like enough fuel or energy to fuel like the level of output we're doing. So like if we're riding bikes or running. So what we're going to experience is like low energy. We're going to slow down. Like our brain isn't going to work very well because like we're relying on fuel, food, energy to like fuel these sports. And so bonking is just like, I'm losing energy, I'm losing it fast, and generally like we're starting to slow down. We're not feeling good while we're doing our sports. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And that's our body's way of protecting us.
It is, yeah.
Right?
I primarily need to like keep you alive. Like this sport that you're doing isn't super necessary. So like I'm going to keep you alive by like slowing things down. Like we need to fuel your brain and your organs first. And a lot of us try and push through that, but like ideally a snack isn't before that time is going to help us prevent that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some good snacks to bring out on the trail? I love snacks. So I'm always looking for more ideas on snacks. So talk snack to me.
You want to find something that like
to me.
you like. Yeah. You want to find something that you like or enjoy. So for me, like I love those like Nature's Bakery. Have you had those with the little
No.
Yeah. Well,
with the fig ones, they're so good.
They're like little Fig Newton things.
They're really good.
With the bakery. I don't know. They're like
writing it down.
Yeah.
They're so yummy.
So you want something with like fair amount of carbohydrates. I think our body can absorb like 60 grams of carbohydrates? Maybe that's not right, but there's like a certain amount we can like reabsorb to like get back in our system per hour. So you want something higher in carbohydrates. So like Nature's Bakery, like Go Macro are some of my favorites. Things like Kind bars that are like very nutty and like heavy protein, like those, our body's gonna have like a little bit harder time, especially if we're just like out there moving. Like it's gonna be harder for our body to like break those down and make those things fuel. So I think of things that are like more carby. And then like savory things like goldfish, things like that for like some variety. Yeah.
I love goldfish.
Me too.
The snack that smiles back.
We love this. Yeah, I'm always like looking for good savory ones because like after a while, like sweet ones just like I want something savory.
Yeah.
And that's probably partly also like electrolytes, right? You're looking for something with some salt in it. If you've been sweating a lot, your body's saying, hey, I need a little bit more sodium. I'm depleting it through the sweat. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely recommend bringing like some electrolytes if you're going to be out there for a few hours.
Yeah.
Because even if you're not sweating a lot, like you're sweating, like we're losing things.
Yeah.
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 What about, so one of the biggest questions that I get asked all the time about like strength training or even for cardio is what do I eat before and after? So how would you, because it's important to be kind of ready to go, and like the snacks along the way are great.
Yeah.
But then how do we help really replenish from all that activity? How do we prepare and then replenish?
Prepare, like you want to have, I generally say like have like a balanced breakfast. So like get all of the things. You want like carbs, you want proteins, you want fats, you want it all in there. Depending on how soon you're going to eat that before, like you're going to want to make sure it's something that is going to feel good in your stomach, which is going to be an experiment for you. So we know like some things are going to sit well before we go and ride for a few hours. Some things aren't. So that's going to be an experiment. And for some people with like GI stuff, sometimes like more fats don't feel as good before that. So that's something to experiment with and like work with a nutritionist if you're like, I'm just having a hard time finding something that feels good while I'm out here. So definitely protein, carbohydrate is going to be really helpful beforehand. And then same thing after, like we want to replenish those carbohydrates we used. Yes, you are eating snacks and all of that, but like the amount of carbohydrates we can like replenish versus like what we're expelling during exercise, we can't replenish at the same rate. We still want to like get more carbohydrates in as well as protein. Like you were just breaking down muscle for 3 hours. Like let's get that protein in so we can like rebuild all that good stuff. Especially like if you're living the Bend lifestyle, which is like we're outside every day, we're having a great time. Like if you want to come back tomorrow and go out and ride again, like you need to replenish with carbs so that you can go back out and have a good time. I think a lot of times, like, again, we're like very afraid of carbohydrates, but they are our primary source of fuel. So you need to have them to like go out and have all the fun or like train whatever you're working towards in your sport. Yeah.
We love carbs.
We love carbs.
Our brains love carbs. Our body loves carbs.
We're so good at using them. Like we are just like, our body is well adapted to using carbs for energy. So like, let's take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So what if there's somebody who's listening, which I'm sure there is, who's like, oh, it's almost really spring. Because here, well, in the Boston area, it's like not really spring yet. So, but people might be out on the trails. I don't know. But somebody who isn't already like mountain biking, who's kind of like, all right, I do want to give this a go. This will be a fun spring and summer, fall activity. What are the like top 3 to 5 tips you'd have for somebody who's just getting started?
Just getting started for mountain biking. I would say like rent a bike.
Okay.
First, make sure you like it. Like it is an expensive sport. I am happy to spend all of my money on it, but not all of it are. So rent a bike. Go out. If you have a partner that does this, go with someone else. That is like the number one thing I hear. Like depending on your relationship with your partner, like sometimes if they're like a much higher level than you, it's going to be hard. So go with someone who's like, I understand what it's like to be a beginner in this. Like I'm going to take you on like the beginner business so that you can have fun and really experience this where you're at. So make sure it's someone who's like, I know what it is like to be a beginner and I will take you where you need to go. And if you happen to go with someone where you're like, this is like a little bit above my level, like go one more time. Go with someone else, see if you can find like another beginner area. Be okay with sucking, like be okay with being a beginner. Like this is part of the journey. So this is an opportunity for you to experience, like, this is what we did as kids all the time. We're a beginner. And so it's interesting to notice like the judgment that comes up now, but like, this is what it's like. So this is an opportunity for you to learn and grow and, just learn that beginner mindset and just get curious. Yeah. Rent a bike, go with someone who knows what it's like to be a beginner and like embrace that beginner like experience and mindset. Like it's an opportunity for you to learn. And then, that's pretty much what I have. Bring snacks.
Bring snacks.
Bring snacks.
All right. Do you do any online coaching, or tell the people how to find you, how to connect with you, and what kinds of things you offer that could support them either as a beginner or somebody who's looking to go to kind of from beginner to more intermediate or advanced with mountain biking?
Oh, yeah. So I offer online strength and conditioning. So if you are an outdoor athlete and you're like, I'm curious about adding strength and conditioning, I do offer strength and conditioning that is really going to help you level up in your sport and feel stronger out there on the trail as a runner, mountain biker, skier, whatever, hiker, a lot of hikers. So I offer that. I also offer mountain biking and yoga retreats. So if you want to come out and be a beginner with a bunch of other women on a mountain bike, we have retreats coming up this summer here in Central Oregon, in the beautiful Mackenzie River, which is this like lush, whimsical forest. And we'll be mountain biking on this like gorgeous, like blue river, and just learning how to be a mountain biker, very much like beginner oriented. And then yoga and like really amazing food. Our chef is amazing.
Michelle, want to go on vacation?
That. Yeah, I think so.
We'll take the podcast on the road.
Yes.
So you can find that on my Instagram, Casey M. Westbrook. I share all that information there. And I have a website, CaseyWestbrook.com. You can check out what I'm offering there too.
Awesome.
Yeah. And we will link that in the show notes so everybody can connect with you. And even if you are listeners, I'm talking to you, if you are not into mountain biking right now, there is all sorts of other fun and informative tidbits that Casey drops on her Instagram. So her information is relevant to almost all people. So make sure you go give her a follow and see and learn from her and connect with her. Great.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Casey.
Thanks so much for being here with us and making me feel a little inspired to maybe sit on a bike, which I didn't think was possible.
Yeah. No pressure.
I'll let you know if I do. Now that I know that it doesn't have to be like flying down a hill.
No.
With bears.
With bears. I mean, I think the bears are like the least scary part of it to me.
Do you have bears there? No.
We have black bears.
Oh, they're nice though.
Like not right here really though.
Not here, no, but like in Western Mass.
Oh, yeah, but not here.
Actually, no, there was one in Peabody this summer.
Oh, stop it.
There was. I swear to God. I'll send you the news articles. There was like a rogue black bear that was like, I'm going to eat your trash. And
I bet
that's what he did. And they were like, we need to move this guy. And they did. He found a new home.
Okay, well, I'm glad he found a new home.
Yes. So it's a thing.
Thanks
on
for
that note. Peabody black bear.
Peabody black bear. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, on that note, maybe I'll be thinking twice before I go into the woods and
or Peabody for that matter.
Or Peabody. Great.
Yes. Thanks everybody.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. Make sure you go connect with Casey. And Casey, thanks so much for being here with us this morning and sharing all your knowledge and inspiration with us. We really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.